Let me get this straight, Thora began, her voice laced with disbelief. Axel, a Zenithian whose eye stalks trembled subtly, their version of a nervous tick, responded, you intend to replicate a Class 13 Deathworld for this competition. JMBL Trag, the tournament organizer, whose appearance resembled a massive, overripe peach sporting bifocals, confirmed, indeed. It's daring, unconventional, and practically guaranteed to end in spectacular failure. The audience will be captivated. Class 13 Deathworlds were universally acknowledged as not merely uninhabitable, but actively antagonistic to the very notion of life. Scientific literature described their ecosystems with terms like evolution run amok and natural selection with a vendetta. These planets didn't simply eliminate life, they often added insult to injury. To KW's credit, he wasn't fully convinced. What if someone actually survives? He questioned. Trag responded with a moist gurgle, which in her species constituted laughter. Impossible! Not even the Verlians, who drink molten metal for breakfast, lasted an hour in the Class 12 trial run. Molten what? KW shook his eye stalks dismissively. Never mind. Tell me you at least cleared this with the Council of Ethical Simulations. Trag gestured with a short appendage. Oh, relax. It's all simulated. No one can actually be harmed. KW gave a hesitant nod. Fine. But who are the contestants? The usual, Trag replied. Xanthan gladiators, Uplock swarm mines, that persistent gelatinous fellow, and a new entry, humans. KW froze. Humans? From Earth? The Class 13 Deathworld? Indeed. Ironic, isn't it? Trag's expression was difficult to interpret, as her face looked perpetually on the verge of collapsing in on itself. Apparently, they learned about the tournament and volunteered. Volunteered? KW's eye stalks now vibrated intensely. Are they even aware of what they've gotten themselves into? Judging by their application video, Trag replied, I'd say no. There was a considerable amount of laughter. Thora, still struggling to comprehend, voiced her disbelief again. So, let me get this absolutely clear, she began, her tone laced with incredulity. Axel, the Zenithian whose eye stalks quivered subtly, a physiological tell for anxiety in his species, added, you're proposing to replicate a Class 13 Deathworld environment for a competitive event. JMBL Trag, the tournament's coordinator, whose physical form resembled a large, overripe peach precariously balanced on top of a set of bifocals, affirmed the plan. Precisely, Trag stated. It's an audacious, unorthodox approach, and practically assured to result in spectacular, catastrophic failure. The spectators will be utterly enthralled. Class 13 Deathworlds were universally recognized as not simply uninhabitable, but downright hostile to the very existence of life. Scientific publications described these planets' ecosystems with terms like evolutionary mayhem and natural selection with malicious intent. These worlds didn't just extinguish life, they frequently added insult to fatal injury. To KW's credit, he remained unconvinced. But what happens if someone manages to endure, he inquired. Trag responded with a damp, gurgling sound, the equivalent of laughter for her kind. Preposterous, she exclaimed. Not even the Verlians, a species known to consume molten metal as a morning beverage, could tolerate the Class 12 trial run for more than an hour. KW brushed the comment aside with a dismissive flick of his eye stalks. Molten what? Irrelevant, he stated. Just assure me you've presented this concept to the Council of Ethical Simulations for review. Trag gestured dismissively with a short, stubby appendage. Oh, please. Relax. It's entirely simulated. There's no possibility of genuine harm. KW reluctantly agreed. Very well. But who are the participants in this endeavor, he asked. The typical assortment, Trag answered. Xanthan gladiators, Uplock swarm mines, that persistent gelatinous being, and a new addition, humans. KW froze, his eye stalks ceasing their usual tremor. Humans, he questioned, his voice tight with surprise. From Earth? That Class 13 Deathworld? Indeed, Trag confirmed. Ironic, wouldn't you agree? Her facial expression was difficult to decipher, given its constant resemblance to something about to implode. Apparently, they became aware of the competition and submitted themselves as willing participants. Volunteered? KWS eyestalks now vibrated with renewed intensity. Do they even possess an understanding of the situation they've placed themselves in? Based on their application video, Trag replied, I'd venture to guess not. There seemed to be a significant amount of mirth. The Galactic tournament arena, a vast, ever-shifting simulated environment designed to replicate the horrors of a Class 13 Deathworld, was finally revealed to the public. Galaxy-wide advertisements promised a spectacle of unparalleled terror and inevitable, agonizing defeat. It was, in short, the perfect form of entertainment. The alien contestants arrived in sleek, advanced spacecraft, each a testament to their species' mastery of survival. The Xanthans, for example, boasted weapons so sophisticated they required their own legal representation. The Uplock swarm mines arrived equipped with tactical algorithms capable of defeating supercomputers in 17-dimensional chess. And then, there were the humans. Their vessel was a repurposed cargo freighter with the words "Don't Panic" crudely painted on its hull. As the loading ramp descended, the crowd was met with the sight of 5 humans dressed in what could only be described as casual camping attire. Their leader, a tall man with a perpetual smirk and an unlit cigar clenched between his teeth, stepped forward and waved enthusiastically. "Greetings, fellow sentient beings," he announced, his voice overflowing with misplaced confidence. "Captain Virgil McMallory at your service. And this," he gestured towards his motley crew, "is Team Improved. Don't worry, we have a plan." Probably. The crowd erupted in laughter, although it was unclear whether they were amused by or at the humans. "Is that a lawn chair?" one reporter whispered, pointing to a piece of equipment one of the humans was lugging. "Oh, this," replied Sunny, a lively woman with a knack for transforming ordinary household objects into survival tools. No, this is a multi-environmental tactical support platform." "It's a chair," the reporter stated flatly. "A very versatile chair," Sunny countered with a wink. The other competitors exchanged uneasy glances, or in the Uplock's case, pulses of disapproving light. The humans were clearly ill-prepared. This wasn't mere incompetence, it was weaponized foolishness. As the tournament commenced, the humans were ushered to their starting position, a desolate wasteland where the sky alternated between firestorms and acid rain. Trag, observing from the viewing platform, was practically vibrating with excitement. "This is going to be magnificent. I give them 10 minutes, tops." 5, muttered KW, unable to tear his gaze away. Within the simulation, the humans surveyed their surroundings. "Well," Virgil announced, clapping his hands together, "this is cozy." "Defining cozy," muttered Pete, the team's resident cynic, "because I think my eyebrows just melted off." Sunny was already unfolding the lawn chair. "Right, here's the plan. Step 1, don't die. Step 2, figure out Step 2. "Great plan," Pete deadpanned. "Really top-notch." Virgil grinned. "Relax, we've got this. After all, what's the worst that could happen?" Above them, the sky turned an ominous shade of "You're about to regret asking that," as a massive, clawed creature burst from the ground. "Ah," Virgil said, pulling a screwdriver from his pocket. Step 2, improvise. The creature, a grotesque monument to nature's cruel sense of humor, was a sight to behold. Towering and covered in slick scales, it possessed eyes like molten rock and a set of teeth that would make a dental professional weep. Its roar alone was powerful enough to briefly disrupt broadcasts across 3-star systems. Virgil, unfazed, squinted at the beast, screwdriver still clutched in his hand. "Hey," he observed, "it's a bit bigger than I anticipated." "Bigger than what?" Pete shrieked, scrambling for cover behind Sunny, who was calmly and methodically unfolding a beach umbrella. "Easy, Pete," Sunny reassured him, planting the umbrella firmly in the ground. "It's just a Class 13 simulation. The worst it can do is, well, simulate killing us." The beast lunged. "Yeah, no thanks," Pete muttered, diving for cover as Sunny flipped a switch on the umbrella. To the astonishment of everyone present, including the humans themselves, the umbrella erupted in a flash of blinding light, momentarily stunning the creature. What in the world is that thing?" Pete stammered. "It's my prototype anti-aggression shade," Sunny explained cheerfully. "Keeps enemies disoriented and protects you from harmful UV rays." "Multifunctional." The alien spectators were speechless. The Xanthan team leader, a seasoned warrior known for single-handedly subduing plasma rhinos, leaned towards one of his subordinates. "Are they mocking the simulation?" he growled. "They won't last 5 minutes." 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. The humans didn't simply survive, they, in their own peculiar way, flourished. "Okay, team, quick recap," Virgil yelled over the simulated cacophony. "Pete, status report on that barricade?" Pete poked his head out from behind a haphazard wall of debris held together with duct tape and sheer willpower. "It's structurally interpretive." "Perfect," Virgil nodded. "Sunny, what's the status of the distraction device?" Sunny held up a frying pan that had been hastily modified with wires, blinking lights, and what appeared to be an old alarm clock. "Ready to go," she announced. "Is it supposed to be smoking like that?" Pete asked nervously, eyeing the contraption. "Absolutely not," Sunny replied, tossing it towards the approaching beast. To everyone's astonishment, the frying pan detonated in a burst of light and sound, sending the creature scrambling back in confusion. The Galactic audience, expecting carnage and despair, was now glued to their screens, captivated by the humans' bizarre antics. The commentators were at a loss for words. This is unprecedented," exclaimed Zorix Troll, a renowned analyst whose usual expertise involved dissecting strategic errors. "They're not adhering to any known survival strategies," added her co-host, flabbergasted. "They're not even adhering to the laws of physics." Back in the simulation, Virgil was already formulating their next move. "Right, team, let's review. Step 1, avoid being eaten. Step 2, blow something up. Step 3, repeat until successful." "I still feel like this plan lacks nuance," Pete grumbled. "Nuance doesn't win tournaments, Pete," Virgil retorted. "Improvisation does." The team's chaotic approach began to attract the attention of the other competitors. The Uplock swarm mind, which had been meticulously constructing a shelter out of simulated minerals, paused to observe the humans, pulses of bewildered light rippling through their collective consciousness. The Xanthans, meanwhile, debated whether the humans were secret geniuses or just incredibly fortunate. "Perhaps the duct tape is some sort of advanced weapon," one of them suggested nervously. "Duct tape," their leader scoffed. "No species would rely on something so primitive." On the observation deck, Phil Cron was having a complete meltdown. "This wasn't how it was supposed to go," he muttered, pacing frantically. "They were supposed to be eliminated. Why aren't they eliminated?" JMBL Trag, on the other hand, was thoroughly entertained. "Oh, relax, KW, she gurgled. This is giving us the best ratings we've had in decades. Did you see that frying pan trick? Pure genius." "It was an accident," KW snapped. "Doesn't matter," Trag replied, waving a stubby appendage. "The audience is loving it. Just look at the polls." Indeed, Galactic viewership had skyrocketed to record numbers. Social media across countless star systems buzzed with hashtags like #humaninsanity and #deathworldcomedy. The humans, unintentionally, had become the unlikely stars of the tournament. As the simulation progressed, the challenges escalated from bizarre to outright ludicrous. A volcanic eruption that threatened to bury them in molten rock was countered by Sunny's hastily constructed Lavabigon 3000, which, despite looking suspiciously like a modified toaster oven, somehow managed to solidify the lava into a makeshift bridge. A swarm of hyper-aggressive metallic bees, attracted by the scent of Virgil's suspiciously delicious simulated energy bar, was repelled by Pete's ingenious use of a repurposed vacuum cleaner and a strategically placed disco ball. And then there was the sentient tornado, which seemed determined to suck the humans into the simulated stratosphere, until Virgil managed to appease it by offering it a collection of shiny trinkets he'd found scattered around the arena. The alien competitors, meanwhile, continued to drop out one by one. The Xanthans, despite their advanced weaponry, were ultimately undone by their inability to adapt to the constantly changing environment. The Uplock swarm mind, after meticulously calculating the probability of survival, concluded that their odds were statistically insignificant and opted for a dignified self-destruction. Even the persistent gelatinous being, after enduring several near-death experiences, decided that it had had enough excitement for one lifetime and politely excused itself from the competition. This left the humans, against all odds and several fundamental laws of probability, as the last remaining participants. The Galactic audience, initially expecting a swift and gruesome demise, was now thoroughly captivated by the humans' unorthodox approach to survival. Commentators struggled to find words to describe what they were witnessing. They're defying all logic, exclaimed one analyst, his voice laced with a mixture of bewilderment and admiration. They're not just surviving, added another, they're turning this Deathworld into their own personal playground. Indeed, the humans seem to be having the time of their lives. Virgil, never one to miss an opportunity for a grand gesture, had fashioned a makeshift crown out of vines and declared himself the king of the Deathworld. Sonny, ever the resourceful inventor, had created a portable air conditioning unit out of a discarded oxygen tank and a handful of ice cubes. And Pete, despite his constant grumbling, had even managed to crack a smile when he accidentally discovered that the simulated carnivorous plants had a surprising fondness for musical theater. On the observation deck, KWS eye stalks were vibrating so intensely they threatened to detach from his head. "This is madness," he exclaimed, his voice strained with disbelief. "They're supposed to be dead. Why aren't they dead?" Trag, on the other hand, was thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. "Relax, KW," she gurgled, her voice filled with amusement. "This is the best entertainment we've had in centuries. The ratings are through the roof. Did you see Virgil ride that giant sandworm? Pure genius. It was an accident." KW insisted, but even he couldn't suppress a flicker of amusement in his multifaceted eyes. As the second phase of the tournament drew to a close, the humans gathered around a makeshift campfire they had constructed out of simulated debris, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. "Well, team," Virgil announced, raising a canteen filled with questionable liquid, "I'd say we're doing pretty well for a bunch of Deathworld rookies." "Rookies?" Pete scoffed. "We're not rookies, we're lunatics." "Lunatics with a plan," Sonny chimed in, brandishing a device that looked suspiciously like a modified hair dryer. The ground beneath them rumbled ominously, signaling the start of the next phase. Virgil grinned, a glint of excitement in his eyes. "Ah," he said, cracking his knuckles, "here comes the next challenge. Let's see what kind of impossible nonsense we can pull off this time." The ground trembled with a low, guttural rumble, sending vibrations through the simulated air around the humans' makeshift camp. Fissures ripped open in the ground, spewing molten lava in mesmerizing, yet deadly, patterns. The simulated sky darkened to an unsettling shade of impending doom, punctuated by the occasional lightning strike that seemed to target Virgil's head with unnerving accuracy. "Oh, fantastic," Pete muttered, dodging a particularly enthusiastic bolt. "It's like the planet itself has a vendetta against us." "Relax," Virgil said calmly, flipping a fried egg in a pan over their campfire. "This is just the simulation's way of spicing things up." "Spicing things up?" Pete gestured wildly at the erupting chaos. "It's raining lightning, Virgil." "How is that spicing things up?" "Because," Sonny interjected, fiddling with a device that looked suspiciously like a toaster crossed with a science experiment, "if it weren't trying to kill us, we'd be bored." "Bored?" Pete snapped, just as another fissure opened uncomfortably close to his feet. "I would kill for bored." The audience, completely engrossed in the human antics, roared with laughter. Across the galaxy, alien commentators dissected the unfolding events with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. They're cooking," one analyst exclaimed incredulously, "in the middle of a lava storm?" It's called multitasking, another commentator retorted, and apparently, humans are exceptionally skilled at it. Back in the simulation, Virgil finally stood, stretching as though he hadn't just been casually preparing breakfast amidst a volcanic apocalypse. Right, team. Let's take stock. Sonny, what's the status of that contraption? It's not a contraption, Sonny said indignantly. It's a portable atmospheric stabilizer and pancake warmer. Pete blinked. A what? Long story short, Sonny explained, tightening a bolt on the device, it'll solidify the lava. And also, pancakes. Virgil beamed. See? This is why humans are unbeatable. We adapt, we innovate, and we. His motivational speech was cut short as a new threat emerged. A massive, insect-like creature with mandibles the size of a small spaceship skittered towards them, clearly intent on turning them into lunch. Ah, Virgil said, reaching for his trusty screwdriver. Plan B, then. Which one is Plan B? Pete asked nervously, already backing away. Improvisation, Virgil said, grinning. Sonny, flip the switch. Without hesitation, Sonny slammed her hand down on a lever. The toaster-like device buzzed loudly, emitted a puff of smoke, and then let out a sound suspiciously like a party horn. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the lava surrounding them began to solidify, cooling rapidly into jagged black rock. The insect creature, clearly disoriented by the abrupt environmental shift, paused mid-skitter. Unfortunately, this only seemed to make it angrier. Well, that's disappointing, Pete observed. Now we have solid ground and a giant, pissed-off bug. Oh, ye of little faith, Sonny muttered, twisting another dial on her device. The contraption emitted a high-pitched whine, and the air around them shimmered. The bug froze, its mandibles clicking uncertainly. What's it doing? Pete whispered. Contemplating its life choices, Virgil said smugly. In reality, the device was emitting a complex frequency designed to disrupt the creature's predatory instincts. However, to the Galactic audience, it looked like the humans had just tamed a Class 13 apex predator with a glorified waffle iron. Meanwhile, on the observation deck, KW was pacing so frantically he'd worn a groove into the floor. This is absurd, he muttered. They're making a mockery of the tournament. Nonsense, KW, Trag countered. They've redefined it. Look at the audience metrics. They love the humans. But what about the integrity of the competition? KW sputtered. Integrity doesn't sell advertising, KW, Trag retorted smugly. Chaos does. And these humans are the most chaotic thing we've seen since the Taxons tried to eat the referee. The desert stretched before them, an endless expanse of shimmering heat and simmering hostility. The simulated sun, a malevolent eye in the sky, glared down with focused intensity, baking the sand to a temperature that would make a pizza oven blush. The very air seemed to ripple with heat, promising dehydration and delirium in equal measure. A sandstorm brewed on the horizon, a swirling vortex of sand and fury that looked less like a weather phenomenon and more like a sentient entity with a serious grudge. Virgil adjusted his improvised sun visor, fashioned from a scrap of fabric and a surprisingly resilient chip clip. All right, team, he announced, his voice brimming with his usual unwavering optimism. Welcome to Phase 5. Sonny, what are your initial impressions? Sonny, ever the resourceful inventor, had somehow managed to construct a cooling device from salvaged metal and a handful of what looked suspiciously like frozen berries. She tilted her head, appraising the desolate landscape. Manageable, she declared, her tone suggesting that manageables included the very real possibility of spontaneous combustion. Except for the sandstorm, the heat, and that rather unsettling rumbling noise. Pete, predictably, groaned. Why is there always an ominous rumbling noise? Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them heaved, and a colossal worm-like creature erupted from the sand, its gaping maw lined with rows of spiraling teeth that seemed to defy the laws of both biology and geometry. Ah, Virgil said, nodding sagely. That would be the rumbling. The worm emitted a guttural screech that would curdle milk across 3-star systems and lunge towards the humans, who scattered in a flurry of panicked limbs and hastily muttered expletives. Sunny frantically activated her cooling device, which responded with a pathetic sputter and a puff of smoke before expiring completely. "Well, that's disappointing," she muttered. "Disappointing?" Pete shrieked, diving for cover behind a conveniently placed boulder. "It's a giant sandworm. From the sand. Doing wormy things. How is this our life?" Virgil, ever the optimist, rummaged through Sunny's bag of salvaged components and began assembling a device with the casual air of someone preparing a sandwich. "Relax, Pete," he said calmly. "We've faced worse." "Worse than a carnivorous desert tornado worm?" Pete yelled back, his voice laced with incredulity. "When? Tuesday?" Virgil just grinned. The Galactic audience, captivated by the humans' ongoing saga of improbable survival, watched with bated breath. Social media across countless star systems buzzed with a flurry of activity, hashtags like #WormWranglers and #HumansAreInsane trending galaxy-wide. Commentators struggled to articulate the bizarre spectacle unfolding before them. As the worm circled back for another attack, Virgil held up his newly constructed contraption, a makeshift beacon cobbled together from wires, scrap metal, and what appeared to be the handle of a toaster. "Sunny," he said, tossing the device to her, "you're up." Sunny caught the beacon, her eyes gleaming with the spark of reckless ingenuity. She attached it to a metal pole, jammed it into the sand, and flipped a switch. The beacon emitted a high-pitched whine, and the worm hesitated, its rows of teeth clicking together uncertainly. "What's it doing?" Pete whispered, peering cautiously from behind his rock. Listening to reason, Virgil replied, his voice dripping with mock seriousness. In reality, the beacon was emitting a frequency that mimicked the distress call of the sandworm's natural predator, a fact Sunny had deduced based on a combination of educated guesswork, vague memories of nature documentaries, and a healthy dose of sheer luck. The worm, thoroughly fooled, retreated back into the sand with a disgruntled screech, leaving the humans to marvel at their own improbable victory. The final leg of Phase 5 became a race against time. As the simulated sun dipped below the horizon, the desert temperature plummeted, the sand hardening into jagged, treacherous formations. "All right, team," Virgil announced, surveying the rapidly changing landscape, "we need to reach the extraction point before we turn into human popsicles." Sunny, ever the innovator, had been tinkering with a solar-powered heating unit. "I might have a solution for that," she said, her voice tinged with a hint of uncertainty. Pete, already shivering, raised a skeptical eyebrow. "Does it involve explosions?" "Not necessarily," Sunny replied evasively. "Great," Pete muttered. "We're doomed." Their trek across the frigid desert was a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and a healthy dose of absurdity. Sunny's heating unit, while not particularly effective at warming them, did double as a makeshift beacon, guiding them through the treacherous terrain. Pete, demonstrating unexpected resourcefulness, fashioned a sled from a sheet of scrap metal, which Virgil promptly commandeered for transporting supplies, and occasionally, Pete himself. They even encountered another sandworm, but this one, thankfully, was easily distracted by a decoy constructed from spare parts and Virgil's uncanny ability to mimic alien distress calls. By the time they reached the extraction point, the humans were exhausted, battered, and thoroughly frostbitten, but ultimately, triumphant. The final horn blared, signaling the end of the tournament. In the observation deck, KW stared at the screen, his eye stalks drooping with a mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. "They did it," he muttered. "They actually did it." JMBL Trag, on the other hand, was practically radiating glee. "Of course they did," she gurgled. "They're humans. Chaos incarnate. Ratings gold." The Galactic audience, now fully enamored with the humans' unique brand of survival, erupted into thunderous applause. Analysts declared it the most entertaining tournament in history, while commentators debated whether the humans' success was due to genius, luck, or sheer, unadulterated audacity. As the humans were transported back to tournament headquarters, Virgil leaned back in his seat, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. Well, he declared, I'd call that a solid victory. Pete groaned. You call barely surviving while being chased by giant sandworms and nearly freezing to death a victory? Absolutely, Virgil replied. Because we didn't just survive, we thrived. Sonny grinned. And we looked good doing it. For the first time, Pete allowed himself a small smile. Fine, he conceded. But next time, he added with a pointed look at Virgil, can we not do it on a Class 13 Deathworld? Virgil chuckled. Where's the fun in that? The Galactic survival tournament had been irrevocably changed. What was intended as a demonstration of the impossible had become a testament to humanity's most baffling quality, their ability to laugh in the face of doom, improvise against impossible odds, and somehow, inexplicably, turn every disaster into a triumph. Because in the end, survival wasn't just about strength or technology, it was about creativity, teamwork, and above all, knowing when to tell a really good joke.